Aloha guys, welcome to Lake City Adventures. Today's video, I'm going to take you along on a little bit of a home improvement project. So when we bought this house 4 years ago, we spent the time after we moved in to run wired Ethernet cables to just about every room in the house. I've never trusted Wi-Fi. I think Wi-Fi works great in the city where you might have a gigabyte speed connection and you can tolerate only getting 50% of that or 25% of that and still having good speeds. But we're out here in the middle of nowhere. So our internet speeds are not great. We use Starlink, which has gotten better, and we can get upwards of maybe 200-300 megabit speed. But I have found it to be much more consistent and much more reliable if I run wired Ethernet. So when I did that, I ran it to just about all the rooms in the house, except for one. And we're in the process of moving our office from one room of the house to another. We're taking over a guest bedroom and moving our office over there. I'm about to start a new remote job where I'm going to be working from home more. And so we wanted to get an office that's got an exterior view and natural daylight and windows and all that stuff. So as we're setting up this office, I realized this is the one room of the house that I didn't run Ethernet to. So I've got a pretty decent setup already and an infrastructure that I'll show you in a minute with our home network switch and a cabinet and all that stuff. But I'm going to kind of go through the steps today to see if I can figure out how to run an Ethernet cable, actually two, because if you're going to run one Ethernet cable, you might as well run two and use a dual outlet jack. So we're going to try to run two cables from the main hub, which is down in the garage, on the first floor up to this room, which is on the second floor, which is not the easiest thing in the world. So let's go downstairs into the garage. Let's check out the current setup and I'll kind of show you how that's set up and how that's wired. And then we'll start seeing, is this even going to be possible? I don't know. We'll find out. Come along. See how it goes. So I'm in the garage now and let me show you the network switch and kind of how this whole system is set up to begin with. And then I'll show you how I hope we're going to add on to it. All right, so here is the network hub, and this is a cabinet made by BenQ. All this stuff was obtained from Amazon in about 2020. So I put this together about going on 5 years ago now. So this is the main network switch. This is a TP-Link 24 port. It's a 1 gigabit switch, 24 ports over here on the side. This is a powered switch. And then you see all of these wires here are going up to these network interface panels. And that's where I have the Ethernet line running to each one of the rooms. And then it's kind of punched into these terminals here. And so I'm actually pretty full, but I've got 2 ports open on the left side there. I've got 3 and 4, so that's perfect. So I've got 2 open spots, so I can run 2 cables and wire them into that spot right there. And then up to the new office room. So these are all labeled. And you can see on the left side here, we've got living room, and the T and the B is top and bottom. So living room 3 and 4 are empty right now. Downstairs bedroom, master, should be primary bedroom. And then on the right side, we've got upstairs office, upstairs closet, upstairs bedroom, and game room. And you'll see up here that there's actually this one right here. This is 2 ports. This is number 2 and number 4 that are actually wired together. And that's because I'm using this just as a bridge. Our Starlink router that goes to the satellite is in the closet upstairs. And so that's number 4. And so I run wire from that bottom plug in the upstairs closet. The Starlink plugs into that. And then the signal's transmitted over to number 2, which is the bottom outlet in the office. And that's where my third-party router is. The router that comes with Starlink is not great. In fact, I was getting speeds of less than 100 wirelessly with that router. When I upgraded to the new router, I got much higher wireless speeds. So we do get pretty good wireless signal, and I have no objections to using a wireless signal for portable devices, but when we're talking a work from home office and I really need that consistency of a solid network connection, I really want to try to get that wired if I can. So the goal is to run 2 cables that are going to punch onto these network interface terminals right here, and then they're going to run up to the new office. So I don't know if you can tell here, but I've got cables going in 2 different directions. There's these 4 cables that go to the left, and then all of these cables here that go to the right. And that's because, I think the hardest part of these kind of projects is figuring out how the heck are you going to run the cable physically from one room to the other, especially when you're talking about going over in between different floors. All right, so these 4 cables on the left here, if I close the cabinet, they come around the top of the cabinet and then they go down, and I won't show you, but they keep going down and then they actually go down into our crawl space and then run across the crawl space and then pop up into the bottom of the walls in the 2 downstairs areas. So let's see, this is 1, 2, 5, and 6. So that's living room and downstairs bedroom. And then everything else is upstairs. So all of these Ethernet cables here run up and they go through the ceiling. And I was super grateful that we have a propane line that runs up there. And I'll show you this in a minute, but that propane line pops up into an unfinished space kind of behind the wall that already has access. And so I was able to use that as a landmark and just drill a hole right next to it and then run the cables up there to the 2nd floor. Now, I'm wondering if this hole is going to have enough space for 2 more cables. I think it does. I think I can squish 2 more cables through there. So I'm on the 2nd floor now. This is actually in our theater. And I just wanted to show you that the way that this house is built is we have really steep ceilings, steep roofs, which is good for snow slide. So these are 45-degree roofs. And they come down, and there would be kind of this awkward area if they finished all the way out to where the sloped roof hit the floor of the 2nd floor, right? There'd be a little 45-degree nook. And so instead of doing that, they put a wall, they finished a wall that's probably about 4 feet tall, that's straight down. And if I go here to the bathroom, you can see it here too. The sloped wall comes down, and then it's just finished off with this vertical drywall. And so behind it is a potential space. That's the unfinished space I was talking about. And they put these little access panels that actually just, they're on there with just kind of like, oh, this one's actually screwed. Huh. All right, so we pulled that one little screw out, and now this guy should. Now we have both screws out, and this guy should just kind of pop off. Yeah, it comes off really easy. So we have this little spooky potential storage space right here. All right, so a light on, and you can see, oh my goodness, it's cold in here. You can see this wire is running across the ground, and actually it comes out right here, which tells me that I actually ran this up in the little potential space next to this one, which is the one on the back of the theater. So I'm gonna have to go over there. That's where the wires actually come through the ground. Then they come through this hole, and then they run this way across this space. And then there's a hole there, which is how I got them up into the attic. I'll show you that later. But let me show you the wires coming up through the ground, and then we'll feed a wire up and see how it goes. So we're in the home theater. If you have any interest in all this kind of setup and equipment, check out our home theater tour video. But behind the home theater is there another one of these little sneaky access panels, and I'm hopeful. This one I don't think is screwed in. Nope, it's not screwed in. So I'm gonna creep back there. So there's 2 wires here. These are actually running to the right because these go to Ethan's room and hardwire his room. But the source, we're gonna crawl in here. I should have knee pads, and I don't. So that, zoom in on it, is where all the wires are coming up through the ceiling, or through the ceiling floor, whatever you want to call it. And so that black propane pipe right next to it runs heat over to Ethan's room right there. And so that's where all the wires come up. So we have to get 2 wires through that hole, and then they're gonna feed this way through that hole, and then along that other potential crawl space, and then up into the attic, and then across the house, and then down through the wall into the guest bedroom. This, at least, is the plan. These blue ones run right here next to me, and that's hardwiring the theater. It just gets a little tricky over here because what I'm sitting on right now is plywood, but over here is just drywall. So obviously you can't step on that or it'll fall through the ceiling. So I have to kind of contort myself in this little space over here to be able to pull the wires up through that hole and then feed them through that hole. So here's my cable. I got this box off of Amazon when I did this project originally. This is Cat6e. Probably is overkill because this can carry 10 gigabits per second, which is faster than my switch and my jacks and my outlets all do. But this is the part I wanted to future-proof the most because it's not that hard to replace the switch or to replace an outlet, but it's really hard to replace the wire through the wall. So when I did the project, I don't think Cat7 or Cat8 existed. I could be wrong. This probably is the part of the video where I should tell you that I really have no idea what I'm doing. I am not a professional when it comes to networking or running cables or fishing lines through walls or installing jacks. I work in medicine. This is just a hobby, and it's something that I learned by watching YouTube and reading internet articles. So if you're watching this video, please take it with a huge grain of salt. Do your own research. Make sure you know what you're doing. Don't rely on my advice. I'm just showing you what I did. It works for me. It saved me a heck of a lot of money doing it myself and having to hire somebody else to come in and run all this stuff. So bear with me. I don't pretend to be an expert, and I have just kind of figured this out as I go along. The nice thing about this cable that I love is, every cable has this. Let's see if I can focus on it, where it has all the specs of your cable, but at the very end of the specs, it'll tell you 296 feet. See that right there at the end? And so I don't have to measure this. I can just look at the lines and the markings as I pull it out, and I know how many feet of cable I'm pulling out without having to try to measure a 100-foot cable. I just kind of started here, and I figured about 8 feet to get up through the ceiling, and then measured across to where it goes vertical again, then another 8 feet, then across the house that way, and then dropping down 8 feet. So I came up to about 66 or 68 feet of cable is what I need. So I think what I'm going to do is make this 80 feet. Maybe even 90. I might even do 90, just because the last thing I want to do is run all this and find out I didn't measure it correctly. I'd rather waste a little bit of cable, and I can use the leftovers as patch cables. So I think I'm going to cut 2 lengths of 90-foot cable. All right, guys, we have pulled this out. So we started at 296. We're down to 206. So that's 90 feet of cable. Let's cut it. There's our 2 cut lengths of cable, 90 feet each. Now I think what we're going to do is take some electrical tape, and we're going to put the 2 ends together, tape them together, get a little bit of a step ladder here, and see if we can't successfully feed them up through that hole right there. Oh, whoa, as Buffy would say, it's rainbow time. I had to come inside because it's -9 degrees this morning, and I didn't turn the heat on in the garage, so it is so cold in the garage. And I'm wearing bare feet because I'm an idiot. So I had to come inside, warm up. So ladder is set up here. I've got the lines duct taped together. And so we should be able to feed them as one unit if there's enough, if I don't fall off the ladder, and if there's enough space in this hole, but it's gonna go, I think. So here's our mess of cable. There's the end of it right there. Just kind of fed up here. So it's all messy and kind of looped around itself. I'm gonna see if I can't grab that end, straighten it out a little bit, and get it through that hole and pull it that direction. It's really tight spaces in here. I'm gonna try to film this, but I might just be filming my butt. All right, we've got the cable here. Let's see if it's gonna, yep. This is an easy wall to feed through, thank goodness. That is now fed straight through from downstairs to upstairs. All right, so there's the tip of the line. It actually coiled itself up really nicely, coming through that hole from the other side. And now we need to get that line down there, which will be easy, and then through that hole up to the attic, which might be hard. I got to go up into the attic and see what it looks like. Just to show you guys what we're working with, this right there is the other side of that wall where the wires go up to the attic, because I do have an outlet here. This is the closet. So we have to go up this wall, up here to the attic, and then we need to go across the attic, across this open space. And then this is the new office over here. So the wire is gonna have to come across here into this room, and then we're gonna try to drop it down into this wall to put the outlet right there. These are exterior walls, so we're not gonna mess with those because they are insulated. So I'm standing about halfway up the stairs to the attic. That little outlet I showed you is on the other side of this wall, kind of underneath the stairs. And so on the other side of that are where the wires are coming into the wall and then going up. And they come up, I drilled a hole right here, is how they come up. So I think I still have my fish tape in the garage. I'm gonna see if I can't fish this down to that hole and then pull them up, because I'm not gonna be able to just blindly feed them up this hole. All right, I have got my fish tape. And before I started, I kind of pulled it out to the length that I think it's going to be. because it's a little hard because there's already wires coming through the hole that I'm trying to fish it to. There's not a lot of room in there. So I'm anticipating it's going to be hard to find the end of the fish tape in that hole, but I'm going to feed it down there and then we'll go to the other side and look. All right. There we go. Oh my God, there's insulation in this hole. This could be harder than I thought. So guys, we got it. I'm not really sure there is insulation. I just had to try about 150 different angles, but finally it kind of popped right through and fished right down. So let's go down to the hole on the other side and see if we can find this fish tape. So I'm here where I need to try to find the fish tape. It should be right here. These are the 4 lines that I fished the fish tape right next to. However, I remember now that I did this on purpose. So these 2 lines here go to an outlet on the other side of this wall. I should be able to remove that outlet and have good access in there and actually be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so there's the outlet right there. Those 2 holes on the other side that was right here and then right here. So I've got slack on these, so I can just pull them out of the way. Let me get a light and let's look in there. All right, so I was able to reach through there and get the line pulled through here. So now I have a much bigger hole. I just got to find the fish tape, which I can't find it yet. We have success. It was a very difficult fishing job. I had to just try a million different times in different directions to finally be able to see it through the hole here. But we got the fish tape through the hole. And actually, I was so excited I didn't want to lose it. So I didn't show you this, but I taped the fish tape to the lines here. So they're all taped together now. And so I should be able to feed the fish tape up gently and squeeze this so there's no edges sticking out. It's a soft top, and that should feed right up. So we're just ever so gently pulling this fish tape up. And it should be pulling the lines with it. If there's any sort of like resistance, like right there, I'm gonna go back down and check it below because I don't want to pull the tape off the line. So I came back down and that's why there was resistance, because this is just bunched up. So I just need to get this all in the wall and then we should be able to pull it up. I think we've just about got it. It's just coming through. Aha! Success! And we have successfully fished our way from the garage into that dead space, through the wall twice, and up into the attic. We are on our way. So all the cables now pulled and sitting up here in the attic, right there. So now we got to go across the attic to about over there. But this little kind of extra room right here is the roof of the office. So over here should be the wall, and I should be targeting right about here. So I need to get the lines fed down this wall right here. So I have 2 options. Option A would be, and this is the easy option, just drill a hole in the roof of the closet, come down inside the closet and run it down the inside of the wall, down to the bottom, down there. But I don't like that solution. It's not as clean as actually fishing the line down the wall itself. And up in the attic, I think I've identified where this closet wall is. And I'm gonna try to drill right to the top plate of the wall and fish a line down, quite literally crawling on my belly, because it's a tight space in here. I've got my drill bits and my spade bit for a hole. Now this is drywall. This is 2x4 and that's drywall. So I'm reasonably sure this is the top of the wall for the closet. I just had a thought, which is that this could be the back of the closet and the beginning of the room. Oh, that's totally possible. I didn't realize that till right now. I think that one over there, right here, is the beginning of the room. This is closet, and this is closet wall. I wonder if I can sneak in right here on the side and just go through the one. Question is, do I want to take the risk of trying to drill into this 2x4 right here? And why the heck is there a second one that's like not even, it's kind of staggered. All right, so I'm going to go back to plan B. I just don't want to take the risk of trying to drill through those 2x4s and popping through the roof inside the room. So I'm going to start in the closet. I'm going to drill up through the drywall And if it's where I think it is, it should be right at that spot where I was just laying. So I just put a little pilot hole up there. All right, sure enough, there's our hole. And I think we ended up not using a spade bit, just using a 1/2-inch bit, and it's just big enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we've made our circuit from garage to cubby space to the next cubby space. 90-degree angle at that wall. We fished it up into the attic, came all the way across the attic, and now down into the closet. And so the last step's going to be through the closet wall and to cut in a new box and install our Ethernet jacks. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity to be thankful for the fact that I actually had everything I needed in the garage. I can't believe this, but I had leftovers for everything else. So what we're gonna do is put this new box in the wall right here using this drywall knife. And this guy just kind of screws and tightens and holds itself up into the drywall because this is just a super light, non-electrical jack we're putting in. Then we're gonna strip the wire and we're gonna terminate it using this punch tool. Right there, we're going to terminate it into these keystone jacks. And these keystone jacks give you a nice legend on there. We're wiring it as T568A because that's what it said on the inside of the enclosure. So this should line up with the wiring down there on the network terminal, which I'll show you that as well. But so we're going to line up, there's 8 wires and you got to put them in the right spots, and I'll show you that as I do it. So we're going to terminate the 2 cables into these keystone jacks. These keystone jacks fit into this little guy. So they kind of clip in there to hold them securely. This screws on to the terminal right there. All right, so the first thing I did, I measured up to this point from the ground, which was 15.5 inches. And I used that because that's the distance to the middle of an outlet across the room. So I just wanted to keep this roughly the same distance from the floor. It doesn't have to be perfect. So now this guy here has an inner frame right here, and then an outer frame that's going to push onto the drywall. So I want to cut a hole the size of the inner frame. So we're going to put this roughly centered. I'm going to put a level on it, just, you know, to try to be accurate. That's pretty level right there. And we're going to draw just a line like that. And I'm going to make it be a little bit smaller than what I just drew, because I can always make it bigger later. But I can't make the hole smaller. That should be close. Now let's put this back on here and just kind of make sure it's ballpark accurate. That looks pretty darn good. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it out with my trusty drywall knife. Then bingo. That's gonna fit in there just right. And then we just tighten these screws, and as they tighten, they pull the inner clips into themselves. That'll do it. That is secure. All right. Now what I'm going to do is just pull these wires through the hole. And I'm going to leave a good amount of slack here. So I'm going to try to go ahead and terminate these keystone jacks. There's a ton of YouTube videos out there that are going to be better than mine about how to do this. So don't necessarily listen to everything I'm saying here. This is just how I do it. For example, I don't have a great cable stripper, which is what you should have to get the outer jacket off. I don't really have one that fits this the right size. So I tend to just use scissors, and I'm probably going to stab myself. But if you can get the scissors just inside and get a little snip, then you can usually just peel it back with your finger. And I just want to make sure that I don't nick or damage the wires. So I don't want to get the scissors any farther up, but if you can see, I'm just peeling it back. It's a little hard on the fingernails, but just peeling it back. You can go a couple inches. It doesn't matter how far you go, because we're gonna, as we terminate, the excess is gonna get cut off the wire. And I just trim off this, being really careful not to cut any of the wires. I'm gonna separate the wires. This one has a little, like a support in the center. I'm sure it's got a name. I don't know what that name is. I'm gonna cut that off, again, being careful not to cut the wires. And now we have our 4 pairs. So we've got blue, blue, white, brown, brown, white, green, green, white, and orange, orange, white. So here's our keystone jack. You can see on this side, the 2 diagrams are the same, and on this side, there's the same, or they're different. There's 2 different wiring schematics, A and B. We're using A.
and I confirmed that A is the top line. So essentially there's two little slots right here, and that's where you're going to put green and green white, and then these two are going to be orange and orange white. On the B, it would be reversed, and on this side it's the same: blue white blue, brown white brown. So let's see, this one is solid brown and this one is brown white. All right guys, so we've got all 8 wires kind of set here. This little holder here, this little punch block, should fit in here like this. And that just gives you a nice solid surface, because you can't really punch on carpet. You can feel the tool kind of click, but we're punching all of these into the slots. We're good. So that's done. I'm going to wiggle these till they fall off, and then we're going to punch the other one. All right, all set. Both are punched down. I did have to remind myself, this tool has one side that is sharp, and that's the side that goes to the outside when you punch, so that it punches and cuts the wire. I hope I didn't put it to the inside when I did the first one. So I have this double keystone plate, which I think is the right size. Okay, I got it. They just only go one way, so we have to go in this direction. All right. Now we are snapped in. We've got 2 live keystone jacks. So we're just gonna feed this slack back into the wall and screw this onto the plate. It's all installed, secured, ready to go. Just needs a outlet cover plate, which I will get. And before we clean up and vacuum and secure cables and all that stuff, let's go terminate the other end. And then I have a pretty cool little cable tester so we can test the connections and make sure everything's working. All right, you probably saw the stand I had my phone on fell off the ladder, but don't worry, no damage, everything's fine. I just wanted to show you, there we are all terminated. These are the 2 new ones on spots 3 and 4. And then before we hook it up to the switch, we're gonna break out the tester and see if these cables are working. So right now I'm just testing this gray patch cable. So you plug one end on both sides, and you should see the lights in sync starting at 1 and running all the way down. It's testing each pin, sending a signal on each pin, and it should line up, be the same numbers all the way down. Ladies and gentlemen, check it out. We have a solid functioning connection on the top jack. So now I'm going to move this to the bottom jack, and we'll go back downstairs and see if we have a connection. Houston, we have a problem. 3 is not working. 6 is not working. And 8 is not working. So I'm going to guess I screwed this one up when I punched it upstairs, because it's pretty hard to screw these punches up. I think those are good, because I kind of had a suspicion that I was maybe holding the punch key wrong and then cutting the inner side of the wire. Just updating you guys. So we came up here, we took this off, we popped the old one off and just cut the wire, stripped it, and I just re-terminated. Fingers crossed. I hope this fixed the problem. Hallelujah. We are up and running. Both jacks are good. Man, I was nervous too, because if it wasn't the termination, if the cable got damaged somewhere in between, oh my God, I'd be starting all over. But we have tested both outlets. Both outlets are working great. We are good to go with 2 new wired Ethernet jacks. One last look of nice and neat cable management out in the garage before I close this up. There is one thing on my to-do list. Actually 2 things. I need to get 4 patch cables that are Cat6 and black, because I was out, and that'll make this all match and look super nice. We are blazing fast. I mean, at least for where we live. So we just did a speed test, and you can see we got about almost 280 down and about 32 up. And I did test on the wireless before I did all this, and we got about 200 down and about 12 to 14 up. Now it does vary from time to time throughout the day, so it's not a totally fair test, but these are essentially the ideal Starlink speeds. So you just know when you're wired that you're getting your full speeds. You don't have to worry about interference or somebody else is on the Wi-Fi and it's, corrupting some of the bandwidth.
All right, guys, that's going to bring today's video to a close. I hope you enjoyed it. There's no doubt that I'm a huge nerd, and so spending all day running wired Ethernet so I could have slightly better performance on my computer is not something you may be interested in doing. But you know what? If you've gotten to the end of this video and you watched the last 32 minutes, maybe you are. So I've said this before on some of our prior videos, but sometimes I like to make these types of videos because these are the types of videos that I wish I could have watched when I was trying to decide whether or not to do this for the first time. And we actually did this at our old house in Denver and then doing this here now. I feel like I've gotten a little bit better each time, although I still forget a lot because years go by in between. I kind of forgot how to use that punch tool, but we did figure that out. We got that jack wired correctly. Everything's working great tonight. I've been using my computer and the wired connection is fantastic. So thanks for joining. Again, I hope this was mildly entertaining and moderately educational, and we'll see you next time.